I think doubt becomes a challenging subject, doesn't it? I want to point something out in this scripture passage before I go any further. This is the same day. You realize that this night is the very night that Jesus was resurrected. I mean, the day that the women went to the tomb and found it empty, and they went back and told the news of Jesus being resurrected. It's that night, and they're actually gathered together in a locked room, doors shut, they're afraid, and Jesus shows up. And then we're going to talk about doubt. Doubt, which has this bad rap. In fact, I've heard many people say, if you doubt, then you're really no good. I mean, if you doubt faith at all, then you should just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Or you should just not go to church. You should just not even choose to read scripture. You shouldn't choose to go to a small group or do anything like that. Faith itself is a fool's errand if you have doubt. I've heard people say that if you have doubt, it makes your faith weak. I'll tell you what, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to tell you, I totally disagree. I think doubt and faith, in fact, go hand in hand. I believe you have to have one to have the other, and I think they actually strengthen each other. Let me give you just a little bit more of a picture of this same day of the resurrection. Because the disciples are in this room. Doors locked, they're afraid, they're scared, they have doubt. And I can just imagine what's going through their mind. Most of it's disbelief. Most of it is absolute, utter shock. And I can imagine them thinking to themselves, I can't believe that Jesus was taken. I mean, how many times did he escape before? Did they just let him slip past? I can't believe he was taken. I can imagine them saying, I don't believe that Judas, who was our friend, our brother, that he betrayed Jesus. We can't believe that Pilate would have him beat. I mean, he's a rabbi after all. I mean, you don't have rabbis beat. We can't believe that this would happen. We can't believe that the Pharisees would conspire with Rome, who is our enemy, to have Jesus, who is the Messiah, arrested, put on a cross. They can't believe that he was crucified. They can't believe that he wouldn't do a miracle from the cross. They had seen him do miracles before. Why didn't he just jump off? They couldn't believe he died. And then they really couldn't believe his body was gone. What is going on? They're confused. Their faith is shaken. They have doubt and they're afraid. Can anybody relate? You ever just find yourself at moments in your life that you're afraid? You have doubt. You don't know what to do, and it feels like your whole life is just shaken. That's what they were. That's what was going on in that upper room. And there, behind closed doors, all of a sudden, by the way, less than 24 hours from the moment that he was resurrected and the women saw him, he shows up in that room. And he says to them these words that I think Jesus says to each one of us at important times in our life. He just looks at them and says, peace be with you. In fact, I want to point out, Jesus says this twice. He says, peace be with you. Peace. Be still. Do you guys remember Jesus saying this when he's on the Sea of Galilee with the disciples? They're all a little shaken again. They're all a little afraid. They think they're going to die in a storm. And Jesus is sleeping, just kind of resting. And they go get Jesus and say, we're going to die. They're probably still a little tense like that. And he wakes up and he goes up and he looks at the storm and he says, peace, be still. I want to point out, Jesus only had to say once to that storm. He only had to say once, peace, be still. And the storm went, shh. Their tension, their stress, their fear, their worry in that upper room that night was twice the level of that storm that they thought was going to drown them, that they thought they were going to die in, that torrential rain that they thought was going to cover them. Their doubt and their fear was greater. Jesus had to say twice to them, peace, be still. And then I want to point out something else. He comes up to them patiently and he says, look, see my scars? See the nail holes in my hands? See the nail holes in my feet? Look, touch my side. He says this to all 11. Now remember, Thomas isn't there. But he says, maybe he goes around patiently to each one of them and gives them time. Touch, see, believe. And then he does something else miraculous that day. He looks at them and he breathes upon them. Receive the Holy Spirit. You know, we think that we have to wait until Pentecost. But Jesus never left his disciples, never left them alone or abandoned. The Holy Spirit was not only with them, but filling them from that very first day of resurrection. That's something miraculous that I think we often miss or we skip over when we read this text, because what we're focused on is this doubt. What we're focused on is this Thomas who wasn't there, who couldn't believe. We're focused on that. But look at what happened. I think the real question that first day should have been, now that they had seen, now that they had touched, now that they have been a part of that. In fact, Jesus showing them, here's my broken body. By the way, just a few days ago, I broke the bread and said, this is my body broken for you. He told them he was going to do it. What happens when Jesus reveals himself to us in that powerful of a way? What happens when Jesus literally says, touch and believe? What happens when he breathes on us and says, feel the Holy Spirit? And then he looks at them and he says, as the Father sent me, I'm sending you into the world. What happens? So the real question is, what happened to them? What did they do? What did they do after that first day that made a difference? By the way, I'm going to clarify. I think they did just about as good as any modern day Christian. They locked themselves in the room. They're scared to death. I still don't know what's going to happen. They're hiding behind the walls, waiting for the aftermath, maybe waiting for the nuclear fallout to pass them by, for the Jews to stop being angry, the Pharisees to set things aside, for the Romans to stop looking for all the rebels. How often do we, in our fear, in our doubt, in our worry about what other people are going to say about our faith, we shut ourselves behind closed doors, or we think we can only talk about it in this space, or we think it's not safe to take outside to the world. They didn't do anything miraculous that first week. In fact, I think what's really interesting here is that first week passes and they didn't do anything different than Thomas, who wasn't there. Their faith wasn't any more amazing than Thomas's doubt, if you will. So now a week later, it says 8 days pass. They're still gathered in this room with the doors closed and locked, still worried, still waiting. And just like a week before, just like the day of resurrection, Jesus shows up and he says, peace be with you, peace be still. Calms the room. And I can imagine, at this point, the disciples, maybe they're a little excited. Maybe they're anticipating. They're glad that Jesus showed up, and I can imagine them beginning to converge on him, to touch and to see again, to believe, to be connected to Jesus, their Christ, once again. And I can imagine, if you ever walked in one of those rooms and you see somebody at the back of the room that you know that's who you really want to see. And it's like you make eye contact, and the rest of the room just kind of parts. It's like parting the Red Sea. Jesus sees Thomas, and he focuses so clearly on him. He walks directly toward Thomas until he gets right in front of him, and he puts out his hands and says, look, touch. Don't doubt, but believe. And Thomas, without having to touch, without saying any other words, he falls to his knees and he cries out, my Lord and my God! Let me say that again. He says, my Lord and my God. I don't know if you're aware or not, but in the Gospels, there is not another place when any other disciple says of Jesus that he's God. Peter calls him the Messiah, the Holy One of Israel, but he's not referred to as God. Thomas, who is this doubter, Thomas, who is this one who is mocked and picked on, who is put aside because he didn't have enough faith to believe this whole week, he falls down on his knees and cries out, "My Lord and my God." And by the way, I want to point out, he didn't ask for anything different or more shocking than what the other disciples had already received that first day by seeing and touching and believing. Thomas, in his doubt, was as faithful as those who had seen and had experienced. Disciples who had faith found themselves in exactly the same place 8 days later that Thomas was. In fact, what this points out for me is not that faith is any greater than doubt, or that doubt has any weakness in faith. It points out to me that they're the same. That faith is no better, a person of faith is no better than a person struggling with doubt. In fact, often a person of doubt responds with greater conviction than a person of faith does. Let me clarify this for you. People that I've seen struggle with their doubt often give more strong testimony, conviction, than people of strong faith. Who knows anything else about Thomas other than this passage? Yeah, no, we don't. Thomas is actually one who speaks great of his faith. And here's the real interesting part. Thomas, who in this space had talked about doubt, he's the one disciple who actually went the farthest for Christ. He's the one who actually followed his calling to India and began a ministry and a teaching in India, and as a saint there, and actually started a church that is still founded upon St. Thomas. Thomas, you can look up in the Apocrypha, the Acts of Thomas, or there's the Gospel of Thomas, and there's parts of it we can look at also. He's a person who absolutely embraced his faith along with his doubt. Let me give you some other examples, some very real examples, today examples of people that you might know who were skeptics, in fact, who were atheists. Anybody know of a guy named C.S. Lewis? Okay, come on. You gotta give me a little more than that. That's not as enthusiastic as I anticipated. Okay, C.S. Lewis, if you haven't read one of his books, grab Mere Christianity, grab the Narnian Chronicles and see what you find in that story for kids. I grew up on that. Comes from an atheist's background. Avoiding God, disbelief is part of his reality. What about Josh McDowell? Anybody hear that name before? Great leader in family ministries. He's founded a lot of them. You can find all kinds of books about faith and everything from raising children, you name it. Comes from an atheist background. Here's another really good one for you. Francis Collins, this one I bet you don't know. With a PhD, a geneticist, was converted to be a believer. Primarily because of all of the study and the science that he did. He came to a belief that there is absolutely no other way to define, to understand what he was studying other than a divine God. Maybe you've also heard of Anne Rice. Who's heard of Anne Rice? Anybody read her books? Probably the vampire books, right? Did you know she's also got a book out called can you say that? Called Out of Darkness. It's about her testimony, her experience, that she started out as a Catholic and veered very, very far from it. And then her faith coming back to her and her testimony at that time and how God revealed God's self to her. This is a person who has strong convictions of faith at this point. How about Lee Strobel? Anybody ever heard of Lee Strobel or the book The Case for Christ? This is the movie I was talking about earlier. I'm going to invite you guys to go to a movie with me again called The Case for Christ. Look up the trailer if you want to see more about it. I might show it next week. This guy's a journalist who was absolutely convinced that this Christianity couldn't be real, this resurrection couldn't be real. None of it had any validity, and he did his best to research and to prove that it couldn't be real. And finally, he came to a conviction that he realized it has to be real. There's no other possibility. This has to be real. By the way, how many of you, when you are arguing with a friend, you like to admit you're wrong? Yeah, that's the truth. We don't like to admit we're wrong. And you know what, for a journalist, do you think they like to admit that they're wrong? When they research and study and dig into a case to try and make their position stand for years. And then to finally come to a place to have to not only have to say, I was wrong, but to say, now actually I'm finally convinced that not only was I wrong, but this is absolutely right. To come to God from a place of reason and logic and criticism and digging into the texts and the history, it's pretty powerful. So somebody with doubt, when they confront their doubt, when they seek to find the risen Savior, to look in his eyes, to touch his wounds, to believe if it's real or not, when they actually confront their doubt, they become stronger in their faith than those people who would shut themselves inside the doors. And I hate to say it, but often it's people outside the church that become such proponents of faith, louder, more verbal about their faith than people who come to church and close themselves behind doors and think it's comfortable to come to worship here and to be safe behind these walls. Thomas, mocked for being the doubter. And yet, this doubter who encounters Jesus the same way as these other 11 who were given credit for faith. They see the same things. They touch the same things. They encounter the risen Christ, but it's the doubter who does more, goes further. The truth is this: when we encounter the risen Christ, it has the same effect on persons whether they claim faith or whether they claim doubt. And Jesus said to all of them, he says, I send you as the Father has sent me. So the real question isn't about how we encounter Christ or when we encounter Christ, whether it's the first day from the moment that we're born, we're raised in the church, or whether it's at that last moment or 8 days later that we finally encounter Christ and see what he's done for us, touch the brokenness of him, to receive the grace that we experience in communion or baptism. It doesn't matter when we encounter the risen Christ. What matters is what we do with it and whether or not we go beyond those closed doors. The question is, what will you do now that you've encountered the risen Christ, like we just did last week, talking about Easter, the resurrection? Today I want to address something different than I normally address. Normally we talk about our faith, and I'm addressing your faith. Today I'm addressing your doubt. I'll admit there are days that likely you sit there. There are days I stand here and I say, this story, this Bible, it's too amazing to believe. There's doubt that resides because it's so amazing. And I would tell you that each of us, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we're comfortable with it or not, each of us find ourselves in days where we have a little bit of Thomas stirring in our hearts. Maybe that makes you afraid to encounter, to confront your own Thomas. But the truth is, our doubt has just as much strength as our faith. If we grab a hold of it and take it to the very throne of God and we claim it and say, God, I'm admitting my doubt. The same as Thomas did. question is, what will we do with it when we leave the room? Jesus asked Thomas this last question, and I think he was asking Thomas, but he was asking everybody in the room. In fact, I think he was asking each of us today maybe the same question. He says, have you believed because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet who have believed. So I'm going to tell you today, even in your doubt, because you're believing even of the smallest measure, you're blessed. Jesus says we're blessed because we believe and we've not seen. And I believe that you're here today because you believe, even a small portion, or because you're wrestling with your doubt. You're here because you're searching or wondering or questioning, or you're just waiting in that upper room with the doors locked, waiting for God to show you something so miraculous that you can't turn your back on it anymore. The question I want to leave you with today, the question I want to send you out of here with is this. Will you respond with doubt today as strong as a believing Thomas did? Will you respond with doubt in the same way that believing Thomas? Or are you waiting for Jesus to show up and say, touch? If that's what it takes to believe. How long will you wait? How long will you keep the doors closed? How long will you hide in fear and doubt when Jesus has breathed upon you and said, receive the Spirit, go, and send it. Today I encourage you to respond with doubt as strong as a believing Thomas. Would you pray with me? Most holy God, it is in your mercy that we are able to gather here this week. It is by your grace that we have received your sacrifice of love and mercy. And Lord God, as we worship you now in spirit and in truth, we pray that you would pour out your presence and your power upon us. That you would anoint us and remind us that even in our doubt, you stand beside us. Lord God, today we give you our doubt. We ask in your name, you would fill us, you would call us, that you would send us. The power of